Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and welcome to the joint equilibrium session of the 9th and 10th edition. And those who have been with us from 1 p.m. welcome back, and I hope that you had the chance to refresh and relax and are ready for the second part of the meeting. It is really big pity that we couldn't meet in person, but honestly, I am very happy that we can meet at least via Zoom, and it is great to see so many participants and so many of you joining us, at least in the virtual way. As we have some new participants, I would like to brief shortly those who might not be so well experienced with Zoom. So you can change the view. If you look at your screen, you have at the right corner on top, you have a small square, and you can change it to either like that, see more of the shared screen or the speaker. Then you are all automatically mute, but I will still encourage you to send us your questions or use the chat box. So either you can use chat box for sending a message or saying hello to everybody, or for the questions, I would like if you could use the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of the screen, at the line, and Q&A is written there. So you will type it there, and we will answer either immediately or as the talk will keep going. So I would like to also mention that the event is and will be recorded, and we will make it available to you. We will share the link. So in case that something happens and you will have to leave earlier, or you will miss certain part of the talk, you can come back to it and see it and listen to it again. So that's enough from my side at this moment, and I'm really pleased and honored that I can invite British ambassador to the Czech Republic, Nick Archer, to say a few words to welcome you, and maybe to say a bit more about how he and the British Embassy is seeing the diversity and the equal opportunity. So please, Nick, the screen is yours, and thank you for attending.
Marcella, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually very grateful to Marcella for inviting me back, because last year I made a joke and got into trouble. I think it was a joke about Marcella's expense, and I was confidently expecting to be excluded from there on in. But I guess actually the real reason I'm back is because the British Embassy is a stalwart supporter of and participant in this scheme, and I promise you there will be no more jokes. Indeed, recently I've been reading my way around Czech feminism, and in particular enjoying this marvelous book, Czech Feminisms, by the wonderful Jiřina Šiklova. Šiklova? Yes, Šiklova, who came to lunch last year. And I've been doing that in part to contextualize what we're doing here a little bit, rather than just dipping in and out and immediately forgetting. In part because, to be honest, it's difficult to know what to say about something which is so self-evidently of value as this scheme is. There are lots of Czech words I don't know, but one Czech word to which I'm particularly attached is the Czech word fair, because it's the English language word fair, and because fairness is so fundamental to our values. They're not exclusively our values, of course, but fairness is terribly important to Britain. And that's one, I guess, of three reasons why we like equilibrium. The second is because there is self-evidently a need for this kind of mentoring support. It follows from what I was saying a moment ago about self-evident value that there shouldn't be a need for this kind of thing, but it's quite clear there is, and we know that both from feedback from participants, but also when we sort of look at the shape of Czech business and industry and look at who continues to occupy most of the senior positions. So we do this because we are committed to fairness wherever it can be encouraged, and because we see the Equilibrium scheme still as something of real value to younger people in this country as they make their careers. And the other reason actually why I'm personally particularly attached to it is because I have huge admiration for the British Chamber of Commerce, the BCC. And although Equilibrium is in a way nothing really to do with the British bit, and although Equilibrium brings into the British Chamber a number of companies that perhaps are not major trading partners of ours or don't have investment relationships with us, nevertheless, I'm absolutely clear that being the pillar of this scheme hugely strengthens the Chamber and makes it something of which we can be really proud. Now, today, I hope we're bringing together last year's graduates and this year's. And of course, I remember that I met last year's when you were all just embarking on all this. And so I do very much hope that you had the great year that we all believed and hoped you would have, and that you all feel, maybe in slightly different ways, to varying degrees, that the investment of your time and energy in your participation was worthwhile. And assuming that that's probably the case, I want to wish the new class of 2020 who are just joining us a similar level both of pleasure and of professional satisfaction from the experience on which you're embarking. And I want to finish in a predictable but nevertheless a heartfelt way by saying, of course, that this wouldn't work without endless volunteer mentors and without them all being pulled together by the people who actually organize this scheme. Mentoring is also rewarding but hard work, and organizing exactly the same. So I think all three groups, those who are benefiting by, as it were, listening or bringing their issues to their mentors, the mentors themselves, and then the BCC and all its associates and partners in running this scheme. I just wanted to say a word of congratulation to and a word of profound thanks to. If you've read my foreword in this year's brochure, that will fill in any gaps in what I just said, and I think that's probably enough of your time. Congratulations, well done, love it. Marcela, thank you.
Many thanks, Nick, and big thanks for your support and also for the great support of the embassy, because we really appreciate it, and I would say it's crucial for our work. And also thank you for mentioning FAIR, because I mentioned it in the first part of our meeting that fair play is actually one of the core values of the Equilibrium program, which is like the important precondition how the program can function. So many thanks. And now I would like to ask for the next slide. So the agenda, what is ahead of us, basically now we are going through this welcome and opening. Then we have two great inspirational speakers, Rebecca Gratan and Jaya Balu from Avast. And after that, we will have two pairs, mentor-mentee, sharing their stories. And we allocated 2 hours for our meeting, so probably we will finish at 5 p.m. So next slide, please. Yes, I think you probably would agree if I say that 2020 has been so far quite an extraordinary year. And we all have gone through rather challenging times, and unfortunately, talking of equilibrium, it also means that due to the COVID situation, some of the events could not take place. And we are sorry about that, but on the other hand, we hold a number of events online. And also, and this is something what makes me really, really happy, most of the mentoring one-to-one meetings were still taking place. So I'm glad that considering the circumstances, we still could deliver a significant portion of the program benefit. Well, of course, there are many challenges still ahead of us, but I also believe that there are many opportunities which will arise. And I believe that maybe those who have been with us for 1 year, they got equipped for the challenges and for the opportunities. And those who are with us for the first year, I believe that you will get the equipment and the tools to use the opportunities and to get over the challenges. And I will repeat it again and again. I strongly feel and believe that the role of the Equilibrium community in supporting each other has become even more important than ever before. So now I would like to ask for another slide, please. I mentioned it before, 10 years of Equilibrium. We are entering the 10th edition, and I would say it's a really amazing story. It's been a long journey, but it has developed in amazing result. And I would like to share with you some numbers. Those who were again at the first part have seen it already, but I will show it for the second time because I really think that the numbers are so impressive that it's worth showing again. So Pavle, please, if you could. So as you can see, we started in 2011 with 56 people, so 28 pairs. And as the years went by, we achieved this year 280 people, participants being involved in the program. And if we put it all together, so it means that already 632 mentoring pairs were involved, and also, which is also quite impressive, 400 companies. And I mean, it's a really clear example and evidence how strong and powerful this community is. And for those who are with us freshly, welcome to this powerful community. And those who've been with us for the past years or the past year, I think this probably can make you being proud as well, because you as participant, either mentor or mentee, you contributed to this great success. So many thanks for that, and I hope that you feel a bit of honor and being that you are proud being part of that. And now I will ask for another slide, and actually will pass to Eva, because she will introduce the two great women speakers who I had chance to meet only. Rebecca and Jaya, I was in contact via Zoom, and I already got lots of inspiration from them, even in such a short time. So Eva, please, to you, and then to Rebecca and Jaya.
Thank you, Marcella. So I don't want to speak too long because actually I've already spoken. You don't need to hear my voice again. I'm really pleased that we can welcome Rebecca and Jaya to speak today. Both ladies hold senior leadership roles within Avast, which is a publicly listed FTSE 100 internet security or information security company that was created in the Czech Republic. Both very interesting stories. Jaya, born in India, moved to the US, now living in the Netherlands, and I believe should be here in the Czech Republic. Has spent most of her career in internet and information security, now holding one of the most, I would say, most important positions that companies have at this time. Should have relocated, I believe, in last year or earlier on this year. And so we're going to listen to Jaya speak about her story and how it is to work in quite a male, I would say, dominated environment. Rebecca, British, joined Avast in February. And as we were speaking yesterday, very prepared for what she was going to do in the first 90 days or so, and suddenly found that within the first 3 weeks of her joining, suddenly came into lockdown, so relocated to the Czech Republic, but not actually having really met many of the people here. She has a very strong HR background, senior leadership within financial services and now technology. So again, quite male-dominated industries. So we're really happy that we can welcome them and hear their story as to how they are where they are, what they've experienced throughout their journey, how easy it was or difficult, and I suppose really just getting their sense of, you know, whether during their time they had the opportunity to be mentored and how they view mentoring in the success, you know, of where they are now. So ladies, thanks very much for joining, and over to you.
That's great. Thanks. Thanks very much, Eva, and thanks to everybody who's on the panel today. We're going to make a start and to share some presentation slides with you. So hopefully everybody can see those slides okay. Just before we get going, I want to share the agenda that Jaya and I are going to work through. And this is definitely going to be a kind of a double act. So in terms of the way that we're going to be working with you this afternoon, there's going to be 3 different ways. First of all, we're going to do a bit of talking. There is going to be some interaction required from the audience, so I'll come to that in a moment. And then at the end, we're going to leave time for people to ask their questions. So if you want to ask questions, do feel free to put questions into the chat or into the Q&A, and we'll pick those up at the end of this session. What I can say very confidently about Jaya and myself is that we really are prepared to answer any question, so you don't need to be polite. So we will answer whatever you want to ask us. Please do go ahead. So what are we attempting to cover off probably during the first sort of half an hour or so while we're going to speak? A little bit about us as people, how we feel we've developed as professionals. We're also going to say a bit about how we go about having it all, because both of us have lives outside of work. And by the way, we don't have it all, and we'll tell you why that's the case. And then we want to talk a little bit about why it's important to develop female leaders, and a little bit about our experiences of being developed and of developing others. So when we get to the interactive parts of this presentation, we're going to be using something called Mentimeter, which people may or may not have used before. If you have not used it before, then you can use any device to dial into the website menti, MENTI.com, and our code for this event is 7566780. So once you key into that URL, whether you can do it on a mobile phone, you can do it on an iPad, laptop, desktop, any internet-enabled device, you will be able to see the slides as we go through, and it will also enable you to vote and to comment directly into this presentation as we go along. any comments or voting that you participate in are completely anonymized, but we just thought it's a bit of fun as we go through this session. Okay, so with no further ado, I'm going to move on, and Jaya's going to kick us off actually by just saying a little bit about herself. But let's do a quick practice. So first of all, you're on Menti. The agenda that we've set out, does it kind of meet your expectations? And that's brilliant. I can't believe how many technologically enabled people we've got here who are kind of voting amazingly. Yeah, it's all working. I've surprised myself here because I'm not the technical one of the pair, but somehow it's all happening, and that little gnome is dancing, and lots of people are happy about the agenda that we've set out. So brilliant, well done everybody. I think we've got about 180 people on at the moment, so we've got lots of you getting in and participating as we kind of go along. So that's a great practice. Anyway, I'll stop playing with the technology because I don't really know how to use it, and I will hand over to Jaya, who's going to say a little bit about herself.
By the way, you should all know Rebecca loves making these Mentis. I might as well, I'm just going to slip that in there. She has way too much fun with this stuff. So I'm glad you guys like the animations, because we both know you really enjoyed them, Rebecca. So, so to start off, I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Avast. I've been working in this field in, you know, basically all things IT for over 20 years, which is kind of scary when I think about it. Actually, I'm 47 now, and I started when I was 24, 25, actually working. And I've done this stuff, building networks, from MPLS networks to IP networks to building small ISPs, you know, the whole thing from scratch, all over the place. And I've also, because I have some very specific expertise in areas like lawful interception and cryptography and surveillance and stuff like that, I've also spoken at conferences, security conferences, but also I've given 2 TED Talks, and I'm on the faculty of something called Singularity University, which is a cooperation between NASA and Google. And it's just, the reason I do it is because all of the other speakers are amazing, and I get inspired by them and what they do. And it's everything from biotech and nanotech to people who are working on energy solutions to environmentalists. It's amazing. And you know, the fact is, I am really interested about all of these subjects. I love what I do, but what I like the most about what I do is that I keep getting this opportunity to learn more stuff. And like, I can get completely passionate about, you know, flying drones, or which, by the way, is actually my current project at the moment. I'm trying to figure out a way to surveil my own house, which is allowed, it's legal, but to do it without actually having the thing in front of you, which is a whole nother type of technology, which is technically not allowed yet, which is beyond the line of visual sight. Anyway, I'm playing with that kind of stuff. And Rebecca, if you ever want to get me a Christmas present, what I really want is a gene editing kit. And for those of you that are interested, I know, I want to turn my cat glow in the dark. It's not allowed. But anyway, there's this, if you guys are really interested in learning about that stuff, watch the Netflix show, which just came out like, I think 2 weeks ago, called Human Nature. Amazing stuff on gene editing. And there's a kit called the Odin, which you can just go on the internet and buy, which gives you a home genetic and engineering kit. So, you know, I think, yes, I'm CISO at Avast, but none of that stuff defines me in a static way, because I just love doing and learning new things. Rebecca?
I'm not really sure how I can follow that, but anyway, I'm going to attempt to. And I think what's really amazing is that Jaya talks about all that stuff, and look how boring I kind of look in comparison, which is interesting. So I'm the kind of classic HR person. So I've had a kind of quite corporate career. I'll talk a bit about how that started a little bit later on. So I've worked primarily in human resources, but also in transformation. And I've also took some time out actually to undertake a chief operating officer role. because I wanted to try and stretch myself. So that was really fascinating. And I've worked some time as an NED. I think about, so I think, you know, that's my kind of professional life, and I have a very busy role at Avast, particularly because we're a global firm that brings a lot of its own challenges, but obviously very kind of proudly headquartered here in Prague. I have other stuff going on as well. So I'm a mum of one, and my son's just graduated from university, probably the worst year ever for doing that, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. I couldn't believe it when I wanted to try and bring my dog to Prague, and I realized that it's one of the most dog-friendly cities in the world, so I was absolutely delighted about that. And I think really importantly, so I'm nearly 52, and so I'm probably coming towards the end of my career, my kind of formal career, if you like. And I'm still trying to work it all out. And I think that's really important to say to people who are earlier in their career than me, you know, don't believe people who say, you know, that they've got it all worked out, because honestly, Jaya and I sat here on the panel today telling you, you know, here's some ideas and some thoughts, and this is what we've done. And I can tell you honestly that I'm still trying to work it out, and I hope that I'll still be working it out actually in over the next few years, because that for me is sort of what makes life kind of exciting, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to move us on once more, and we're going to talk a little bit more sensibly now about our professional development. Back to you, Jai.
Jaya, you are mute.
Oh, great. Always good. Sorry, I was like chatting and muting, trying to be polite. Anyway, but what I was saying is I've already touched on this before, that I've built all these communication networks, even though I can't unclock the mute button. And I've like been a speaker in these different places and been a CISO for more than 8 years in this type of senior executive role. But I've always been trying to learn new stuff and continuously specialize in new technology. And that kind of started, like this whole journey didn't start like with the career stuff. It actually started from when I was 9 years old, because when I was 9 years old, I was incredibly passionate about learning BASIC, which was a computing language, or is a computing language. And I just wanted to learn. And I thought, you know, through my entire growth, I just thought, this is just a hobby. This is not serious. It's like, you know, one of the many projects that I have, like, that I'm just interested in. It's just a thing. And once I understand it, you know, I move on. And I went to university for political science and international relations. And I wanted to be a career diplomat like my parents, who worked at the UN. And what I realized is, understanding something and finding it interesting is not the same thing as doing it equally well and enjoying the doing of as much as you understood, you know, or love the understanding of. So I, you know, really mucked that up at university. I did terribly at writing like very long term papers about Vice President Dan Quayle, who was a horrible vice president, almost as good as Donald Trump is now, but I mean, you know, who can compare? So the clue is that I really like learned that even though, you know, we have all these passions, that everybody wants the same things, regardless of where you go all over the planet, or what phase of your life you're in. Everybody wants to do well. They want to enjoy the thing that they're doing, and they want to give the best to their families and their friends of who they are. And when I'm a speaker at these conferences, you know, I'm very often just like the only female, or one of 2 or 3 females, especially at security conferences where it's all male dominated and technical. But when you do a blind submission to these conferences, you realize that there's way more female participants and way more female speakers. When we just cut off the name and the title of the person who's submitting, there's way more. And I think there's a 2-part responsibility here. One is that there's clearly a selection bias when it comes to who gets to do this stuff. But the other part is that when you do have some of these events, there's rarely questions. There's rarely anyone that you know, dares to put themselves out there. And for all intents and purposes, I mean, I'm no different, and I also haven't figured it out. And very often the most qualified people to ask and don't. And I don't understand why that is, but I do think that there should be a genuine need that women rise to these challenges and put themselves forward whenever there is an opportunity to do so. I also think that, you know, working at a senior level has nothing to do with the position that you occupy in a company. And you can provide leadership by acting as if you do already. So, you know, you don't require a manager title to be a manager. And I hate this idea of managing anyway. We should all be leaders. And I really think that in order to show that leadership and in order to promote yourself in your career, there's a certain degree of managing your actual official manager. We should all learn how to do that and get that kind of under our heads a bit better. So it doesn't matter whether you're an executive or not, as long as you work with them, figure out how to deal with them in the most professional, peer-like way. That being said, I mean, figuring it out, who's figured it out, really? I think that the nicest thing we can do to ourselves is be kind and allow ourselves the room for failure. Because of the fact that there's always going to be these new things. If we didn't allow ourselves that, we'd never allow ourselves new experiences which involve any form of risk. So in order to keep accepting and trying, you know, allow yourself permission to fail. God knows. I mean, it's always funny whenever I do icebreakers in teams, I ask everyone to kind of say, you know, what's your name? What's your title? And tell me one embarrassing thing about yourself that nobody else does. It's a usual thing. And it's funny how many men go, oh, I don't have anything embarrassing. I cannot. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, I have at least one embarrassing thing an hour. How do you have no embarrassing things? So, you know, keep trying and give yourself a hug when you fail. But it's the best thing because your mistakes are so your own. Anyway, Rebecca?
Thanks, Jaya. Thanks. So, a few things for me to talk about in my career. So I didn't really have a big vocation at school. I lacked a bit of confidence. I accidentally ended up in HR because I suppose I was a people person, you know, so that was my career plan, if you like. I had my first line management job very soon after I graduated at 22. I was so pleased. I was called a supervisor. And I just loved being called a supervisor. I had absolutely no clue at all what I was doing, not at all. I was so incredibly bad that when I look back at it now, it almost feels like something that is kind of like should be in a comedy program. So one of my best fails was in HR. I was a couple of years later, maybe 25. I was working in HR in a hotel and I decided to change the staff uniform without consulting any of the staff. You know, and I thought that was a really good idea because I was the supervisor, I knew best. And you can imagine what the reaction to that was. It was just dreadful. So yeah, have kept learning and failing through my career. No doubt in my mind at all that EQ is more important than IQ. You know, I firmly believe that most people, we can educate them, but if the emotional intelligence isn't there, it's really tough. I've taken maternity leave 3 times with the same child, right? I've only got one child, he's my son. So I did it the first time, obviously, when he was born. And I think this is really interesting because I didn't really like babies. I was one of these people who's aspired to things, got it, and then realized maybe I didn't want it after all. So I definitely did that. I had the baby and then thought, gosh, this is boring. I think I'd rather go back to work quite quickly. But then I realized actually I could be more helpful later on. So I took time out from my career when my son was 15. He was struggling at school and being just generally a bit of a horrible teenager. And then again, when he was 18 and doing his final exams for university, really needed some moral support. So I did it again then. And I think what's interesting about that, and I always say to other people, is don't let somebody else tell you what's the right time to do stuff. Yeah, I felt that was right for me. I was really not very good with little children. I felt I was better when my son was older. at the time my son was really small, I felt quite bad that I didn't spend more time at home. So I just think we need to all take a bit of pressure off ourselves. I think the other thing is that I have sat on some boards, and I sit on boards now. That is really scary, right? Anyone who tells you that sitting on a board is like really nice and exciting, it's terrifying, because everybody looks like really formal and like they know everything, and you feel like a complete idiot. And just, I don't know anybody who doesn't feel like that. I still feel like that sometimes. And I just think some of the things that I think are important for people is don't feel that you need to have a plan or a timetable. Everyone I know who's had one has had to throw it away. Don't feel that you need that and that you're failing if you don't have that. And I also think take pressure off yourself, and if you're managing people, off other people, because I think we're all just trying to do our best. And I think that actually as women, the pressure that we apply to ourselves actually is often the highest form of pressure, and we just need to be, you know, just to take a breath a little bit more. And I think anyway, generally in life, but this year has taught me even more so, we all need to find a way to get that comfort with ambiguity. Because I think as you become more senior, or you're working in a job that's more complex, you're forced to deal with ambiguity anyway. And I think this year has really shown us that, you know, being able to tolerate that is a bit of a skill in itself. And I think the last thing I want to say here is about confidence. So as a general rule, and forgive me for the gentlemen who are on the call, but I work in HR and I interview loads of people. So as a general rule, I tend to see women lacking a bit of confidence. So they've got a bit more capability and lack a bit more confidence. I don't see the same problem with the guys generally. With the gentlemen generally, I see that they're confident, or maybe sometimes even overconfident. And I see in women is a big barrier to progression is just that whole confidence piece. And I just encourage people to surround yourselves with positive people who can help you to kind of feel more confident. I think that's really, really, really useful. Which brings me to my next point of interaction. So as we move on, what I'd like to ask people is, how many of us feel confident in our roles at work? So are you a winner? So all the time you feel kind of totally confident? Is it kind of most of the time, but you have some shaky moments? Is it a bit more sort of 50-50, depending on the situation that you find yourself in? Or are you one of the people who loses confidence quite easily? You know, that you can get knocked back quite quickly if you're in a situation that you are not enjoying or that is new to you. It's great to see people using the technology. I do. I love these voting things. What we're going to try to do at the end of the presentation is to be able to capture both the slides that people have heard Jaya and I step through, and also to capture some of the voting as well, so that we can circulate it for people. I think what's coming through here is perhaps what we might expect, because we have given the mentees that we've got who are on this Zoom this afternoon, you know, lots of people there in the middle, you know, not feeling confident all the time. Hopefully your participation in the Equilibrium program will help to kind of positively impact that. Okay, so I'm going to pass back to Jaya, who's now going to tell you how you can have it all, because she's got that nailed, haven't you, Jaya?
Oh God, I wish I only wish. So you know, like Rebecca left this, so I'm going to leave that there. We're at Crazy Woman Creek. I think there's always a dichotomy between the things that we want to be and the things that we are. When I was a little kid in high school, I remember there was like this like psychological quiz where they asked you, like, it was pop psychology, but it was what color do you like the best? And then the second question was, which color do you think looks best on you? And the what color do you like the best is how you see yourself. And which color do you think looks best on you is how you think other people see you. and it's like a sort of wish. So if you would say like, and these were my things at the time. So at the time, I still remember saying something like, the color I like the best is blue because it makes me feel calm and happy and really peaceful. And this is how I want to see myself. And then the color that I think that I looks best on me is red because it's, you know, different and it's out there and it's totally, you know, bang. And this is how you want to be perceived, or how you think you are perceived by others. And it's really crazy. So if we would kind of shift that, and if the top thing, and I just Googled pictures of me that were online. So this is like with ministers and colleagues and at a talk and then on CNN. Anyway, this is how I think I'm perceived by the outside world, but this is not really me at all. And I'm the product of an immigrant family to the United States. Both my parents work for the UN, so they're incredibly international. Weekends at our house were like the parts of the delegation of Ethiopia dong, 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 at our door, like, hello, we brought injera for the weekend, totally unannounced, but amazing and delicious and just wonderful, but really not very stereotypical, not standard at all. And I always felt when I was growing up a bit uncomfortable about all of that internationalness. And I was not always very proud of my Indian culture because I just wanted to be an American teenager. And I kept forgetting what I looked like physically. So I forgot that I was this short brown girl who wanted to be this blonde cheerleader from Long Island. You know, it was incredibly frustrating when you can't reconcile who you think you are versus who you want to be when you're growing up. And anyway, I was very, very lucky that I had such understanding parents who, you know, thought it's okay, she'll get over this. And then eventually she will be proud of her origin and her family and her background and even her limitations. And my father kept instilling into me this idea that perfection is boring. It's the imperfections in people that we find the most interesting. So look for that in others and cultivate that in yourself. So again, this was when I was growing up, and then this is a picture of my parents from 2 weeks ago, which they're like really happy to send me as annoyed Democrats in Florida. They're voting. But anyway, the reason that I have 3 children. The reason that I can even do the jobs that I do or do anything or, you know, not be crazy woman creek all the time is because I have a husband who like picks up the slack. And I think that's something with Dutch men, by the way, I don't know, but he makes dinner, he picks up the kids, drops them off at school and makes sure that he does the morning shift. So I met him when I was 29 and we're very happy to have happy, healthy children. And I think that a lot of that stability on top is only because of the stability, the foundational stuff underneath. Good parents, good family, with the necessary volume of crazy in there too, by the way, and stable friends. And I honestly think that with the level of crazy that I am, that I wouldn't be able to actually get anything done if I didn't have that foundation. Rebecca?
Hey, thanks, Jo. That's great. And I completely agree with you because I don't think you can have it all. We had this kind of phrase, you know, a few years ago about trying to juggle everything, and I don't think you can't. What I see, because I see women in lots of different circumstances, and often I'm talking to women returners who are coming back to work after maternity leave, is that, you know, this kind of perfect superwoman does not exist, that they are just a kind of fabric of a fairy tale or some kind of romantic comedy film. It doesn't happen in real life. I think there's kind of a couple of things that I would give as words of advice, having kind of been in this situation myself, is I think you have to work out what your priorities are right now. And you have to make your best decision based on your priorities right now, today. You know, so if you've got a child who is sick at home and you should be at work, you might decide, look, actually, right now, I'm going to stay at home. That's the decision that I'm going to make. Or you might decide, I'm going to go to work, and that's the decision that you make. But I think we all make decisions in the moment that feel right in the moment. And I think it's important that we don't feel guilty about that and accept that there will be some sort of impact, you know, be it at work or outside of work. Personal things from me is that a long time ago, I gave up thinking week to week. I killed myself, particularly when my son was young, trying to think, what haven't I done this week? I haven't cooked properly this week, or I didn't do 2 bedtime stories this week, or, you know, I haven't spent any time with my husband this week. And it would just, you would drive yourself mad. So I stopped thinking in weeks. I had a good mentor actually, and I started thinking in 6-week blocks and saying, okay, right, let's just think over 6 weeks. What are we trying to do? And if I have to work 1 weekend in 6 weeks, I can live with it. Whereas if I'm thinking this week, I'm working this weekend, it feels like a disaster. So I started thinking in bigger stretches and trying to get a bit of evenness over a 6-week period rather than a shorter period. And I think now as we talk more about flexible working, that's actually helpful to think about things more holistically. I think it's kind of boring and a bit self-righteous, but I think it's true, is this whole thing about self-care. Everyone's self-care is different. So for me, I know that if I don't get enough sleep, I'm just a really horrible person, just really awful. And so I need to get enough sleep. And for me, that means no devices in the bedroom. So to me, I will just like books, you know, that's fine, but I won't have anything digital in the bedroom. I know that's a big deal. Like my son thinks I'm clinically insane as a result of that, because you always sleep with your mobile phone, don't you? But that's a personal thing for me. I like yoga, other people like running, some people like swimming, some people walk the dog, whatever, that's the thing for me. And the other thing, and I think it was so noticeable in lockdown, is nature. So whatever nature means to you, you know, some of us live near a park, some of us live near a forest, but I do think kind of getting out in nature, I think it's really important around kind of getting a little bit of balance in your life. So they're things that are kind of really, really important to me. So on we go, another bit of interaction. And here, what we're interested in asking you is, how much are you looking after yourself? So you've got some, it's different this time around. So rather than answering just a question, you need to move your little bar along on the questions. And we're really interested in, are you making time for you? Are you putting pressure on yourself? Are you allowing others to judge you? Are you celebrating what that you're doing really, really well and looking after yourself? So we're asking you this time to go along the bar, going from strongly disagree on the left through to strongly agree on the right. And this is a little bit of a kind of, you know, are you doing these things? Are you making sure that you're kind of looking after yourself in a kind of helpful way? And I think this is really useful. And actually, when I've been a mentor, I've often used some of these like little pulse surveys to check in with my mentee about, you know, how you are doing right now. And this for me is really important, because we need to make sure that mentoring sessions are holistic and aren't just you know, about task and career and achievement and learning. And, you know, it's actually also, for me, it's about someone saying, hey, you looking after yourself? How much time have you taken for you? You know, when did you last go and sit in the bath with a glass of wine, for example, you know, which is a personal favorite of mine. So, you know, how are we kind of spending our time? Okay. And, last but not least, I'm going to move back to Jaren. We're going to just say a little bit about how we can support female leaders.
Yeah, so actually, you know, I told you I have a bunch of good friends, but I make sure that I find other women who I can talk to. And I think that's so important for all of us. And it doesn't have to be a woman. I mean, I think it's wonderful if you can find someone who is a male executive that you can talk to equally. So I shouldn't say that. I'm not trying to be gender specific, but I am trying to point out that traditionally or historically, it wasn't always available to me to have this network of women. And I found that very often working in a technical department, I was the only woman who was technical. If there was another woman in the department, she very often had an administrative role and not a technical one. So I find it so super important to find the other women and then to help them along and help them progress. So yeah, if you can help someone else, do it. Rebecca started a mentorship program at Avast, and I got a little bit too enthusiastic. So instead of having one mentee, I now have 3. Don't tell Rebecca. But they're great. I know, but they're great and they're so good. And if I can just let them realize how good they are and help them with that confidence thing, you know, it's not just a benefit for the company, it's a personal benefit for me. It's really good, and it makes you feel good. And ultimately, all types of things where you support each other, this stuff makes the whole world go around. You know, it's really like paying it forward. It took a lot of women to help me get to a sort of sane position where I am now, and I really hope I can do that for other women. Rebecca?
Okay, couple of things. So kind of really reinforcing what Jaya is saying. I think for me, it's about developing confidence, not competence. I think that's what women can do for women the most, is helping them to develop confidence. I think we also need to support women either to have a plan or not have a plan, or to have a plan and then throw the plan away. I think that's fine. And by not judging people's individual decisions. And that for me is crucial, because I think particularly in the workplace, we can end up in a situation where we can make a judgment based on our own position. So you should go for that job, it would be really good for you. Well, maybe it's not the right time for that person, or you should take more maternity leave because it will be great for you. Well, maybe that's not the right time. I think trying not to be judgmental about things is really really important, and using a mentor as well for pushing and pulling. So I met with my mentee last week, and I said to her, and I won't reveal any confidences, but that I'm probably a bit more pushy. I'm really excited for the potential in women, and I really want to kind of encourage it and try and push people a little bit, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a way to say you can make it and we can all go for it and kind of make it there. So it's all about giving people a hand up. Is where we come from. Okay. So last but not least, I'm really interested in now people being a bit creative in this session, because where you go into Menti now is that you've got the opportunity to key in kind of 3 words or 3 thoughts when you're thinking about the Equilibrium program and what you're looking forward to the most about the program. And as you key in your 3 words here, it's going to start to build us a word cloud, actually, that we're going to be able to share with the group a little bit more broadly. So, really interested in hearing what people are interested in, and we will collect this together. And obviously, the words get larger as the number of people talking about the same sorts of things become interesting for you. So. That's incredible. I mean, what's interesting about this, and I know that Marcella was saying earlier, it's such a shame that we're on Zoom, but, let's look at what we're achieving right while we're on Zoom at the same time, which is, really, really exciting to see what people are interested in. So that draws to the end of this section where Jaya and I wanted to kind of give our input, and we're really happy to kind of pause now and to take any questions that people may have. And I don't know if Marcella, if you're going to do a little bit of moderation through what's come through the Q&A or through the chat function, and we're really happy to answer.
Okay, Rebecca, Jaya, many thanks. It was amazing, and I knew it will be great, and you just fulfill my expectation, maybe even got quite a long way above. And by the way, Rebecca, maybe we should think about establishing dog lovers group within the Equilibrium program. I will develop this idea a bit. So many thanks. I mean, I'm not going to say how much inspiration me personally I received. I could see already from the comments that you inspired already many people. I have 2 questions here, and I would encourage the others to submit some more. So Rebecca, one to you. Would you please explain why 6 weeks blocks work for the planning? I'm very curious and need to readjust my planning. Thank you.
Yeah, so honestly, there were 2 reasons for this. So one was I felt like I was working in a monthly block for work. You know, often you're doing monthly one-to-ones, monthly meetings. It was a bit, it felt a bit boring. I wanted to do something a bit different. But also, when I had a child in school, I felt the 6 weekly block often aligned better with like the period between Christmas and spring break, or the period between spring break and the summer. So it was trying to work out what I could do in blocks that were not allied to the normal calendar, so that I could really say to myself, look, what am I trying to achieve between, say, Christmas and the spring break? What am I trying to do here? And so that I was both setting a few goals and also taking a bit of pressure off. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, thanks a lot. I hope we make the answer. And then another question by Teresa. Can you share how to develop confidence without developing competence? I thought it goes hand in hand. I don't know who, whether Rebecca or Jaya, or if both of you want to say something.
You go first. You want to go first, Rebecca, because it was your comment.
Yeah, go on. I'll say something first. So I think for me, what I regularly see is people who are competent, particularly women who are competent, who have what I would call classic imposter syndrome. So you would say to them, look, would you like to present your report at the meeting? And they'll say, no, I can't do that because I'm frightened of presentations, or I wouldn't know what to do if somebody asked me a question. So actually, what I believe we need to do is to help them with that confidence that they are good enough, that they're not an imposter. That's what I meant from my perspective. I don't know if you've got anything to add, Jai, to that.
Oh, well, I mean, frankly, there's plenty of competent women. I don't think that we have any shortage of skill sets or on either IQ or EQ, frankly. And I can fully subscribe to the imposter syndrome remark. I think the issue is that giving women something is the ability to kind of see that themselves. You know, if you hold up a mirror from the perspective of the viewer, not of the person who's kind of seeing it themselves, but if you can hold up a mirror to your mentee and say, look at how cool you are, look at what you've just done already, and then allowing them, I think building their confidence is sometimes harder than building their competence. So I think that if we focus on that one thing, that should be the thing.
Okay, thanks a lot. I mean, there are more questions now coming. So another one from Lenka, who actually, okay, they are jumping too fast. Okay, I'm not. Okay, I will start from the top. Yindra Chekan or Cekan, I'm sorry if I pronounce it not correctly. Are there some career challenges that the international mentors have found especially true in the Czech Republic more than in other countries? Thanks for the great presentations. I don't know whether, I mean, most of you are international mentors, so.
I mean, I think what I think, because I've lived in the Czech Republic now, for all of 7 months. Okay, so I'm no expert. I think every country is on a different journey, and so I think on the journey of something like diversity and inclusion, the Czech Republic is not as far along that journey as some other countries, and I think that can have an impact on anybody who is in a minority group. So in senior leadership in the Czech Republic, women are in a minority group, but as are people of colour and other groups. So I think that that is a dimension here, as it would be in other countries. It's not peculiar to the Czech Republic, but it is factually correct in the Czech Republic because we're just not as far along that journey here as some other countries are.
Marcella?
Yes?
Can I have a question as the he for she sponsor here to both of the of our guest speakers. Ladies, you have talked about the necessity of other women at workplace having your back, and also I would guess also within the family, ideally. But how have you personally engaged the man in workplace to be effective, and how did you ask them to help you and encourage you, give you more self-confidence at workplace in order to develop professionally?
Maybe I can take that one, Rebecca, because, well, so to be very honest with you, that's what I was trying to say. There were not a lot of other female women who could help me. And to be honest, with the progression of my technical career, it was predominantly men that helped me. And I actually don't think we can have this conversation today or any day if we aren't all inclusive. So I know we very often tend to gender polarize towards like women need to find women. And, you know, I do think that there is something to be said for that you do need a strong community of women in the workplace, and that they support each other, because traditionally it's not always the case that women are supportive of each other. I have to be honest that I was very much supported by men from both technical and managerial positions in order to get where I am today. So I don't want to eliminate that. I'm just suggesting that we try to find those people that inspire and lead and motivate and propel that self-confidence in order for us to truly express ourselves.
I'm going to pick up on that. So when I first sat on a board, I deliberately chose a male mentor actually, and got a lot of benefit from it because I wanted to, because at that time there were almost exclusively men on boards, and I felt that it would be really useful to me to understand it, and it was great. So I think there's a balance in these things.
Okay, so another question. Martin Malek, how do current COVID limitations change your approach to people and learning? I don't know, maybe both of you can have a say.
I mean, I think quick answer to that one. I think substantially and probably semi-permanently, if not permanently, because I think the reality of two things strike me. One is the reality of managing people remotely. I don't think that we will go back to 100% back to how we were before. I'm sure it'll be a hybrid model, but I think that's what will happen. So I think we've all got to learn to deal with things differently, including over Zoom. And I think the second thing is, in a sense, in most organisations, it's fast track the move away from workshop style delivery to digital learning. And I'm a real extrovert. I love being in a workshop. I would love to be there today in person. So I've had to learn Menti as an example of something. You know, we're all just trying different things to try to work with people constructively, but while we're limited by, you know, physical limitations.
Yeah, I have to say that I understand this, but you know, I work in a team of people who are not all extroverts, who just love the silence. That, oh my God, it's great. I love COVID-19. I don't have to have all these people touching me all the time and around me and talking to me. It's so irritating. So they love this. You know, this is like a period, believe it or not, of profound concentration and focus and drive, and we actually see innovations and progress and work. So I don't want to completely bash it. I think that, you know, different strokes for different folks. So depending on what intrinsically motivates you and the way that it works, how you best learn, for some people this is great. So, and especially in the teams that I work in, and programming and technical intelligence gathering, these guys are having a ball. Guys and girls, yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. Another question, Katharina Benterbusch. Fantastic speeches by the two of you, much appreciated. What is your opinion, point of view on enforcing a certain percentage of female representation on boards?
Yes, definitely, 100% we should do it. And as soon as we do it for people of colour as well and enforce it, all the better. We have to have cognitive diversity. I feel really strongly about this. We have to have cognitive diversity. And we've had years and years and years and years and years of old school scenarios where there was a closed shop, where it was very difficult for anyone in an underrepresented group to penetrate and get onto a board. And unfortunately, what has been proven is that by setting a quota, we've achieved that. I actually think the benefits are incredible because we've got so much more diverse thinking, and I think we should do it. Feel really strongly about that one.
So I just want to offer something. This is going to sound weird, but because of my background, because there are two things about myself that I can do nothing about, which is my color and my gender, I was very unhappy with this idea about a forced quota. Because I want to be, I mean, purely personally, I want to be selected because I'm the best. Give me any other male security person, I will knock them out of the court, but on my own merits and not on the two things about myself that I have no influence over. You know, this is how people like want to put you in a box. I want to be there in a position because I'm the best. And while I personally feel that way, I think Rebecca is right. Because I may feel that way, that I will be qualified on those merits, but the fact of the matter is, no one sees beyond the name, the color, the gender, and it's naive to assume that that merit qualification even happens. It doesn't even get to that point. You know, I know that there was an experiment just for security conferences where they removed the person who was submitting the talk proposal for the conference. And almost like immediately the representation of female speakers increased because they stripped it, which is crazy, but true. So I do think that we have a genuine problem which can only potentially be solved with this quota. And even though I'm personally against the application of the quota for me, because I don't want it, I don't feel like I need it, I do think it is needed for our society.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Milada Otevřelová. Jaya, could you please discuss more the point, manage your manager? Thanks.
Yeah, I think we very often feel it's a bit that we don't give ourselves permission to make decisions. And, you know, we kind of say, oh, let me wait and be careful. And I speak to a lot of women who are very careful and feel like they have to kind of be submissive to their manager. And I don't think that this is the right way. Because they place themselves in a role that then creates a sort of phenomenon where they are not confident, where they don't feel scared or shy to present new ideas, and therefore like are then seen because of this kind of self-perpetuating thing as someone who's not that contributing to the team. And so I think that we can really help ourselves, women and men. This is not just for women, by really trying to figure out what is it that I'm supposed to achieve, and instead of being submissive, be a true partner in setting your targets, your goals, your progress, having those discussions, putting time in your manager's calendar, and really trying to lead from the position that you're in rather than taking it based on the role that you occupy. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a few more questions. We will see how many we will manage till we run out of the time. So, Emily, Anthony, why do you think men are often hired, promoted based on potential, whereas women are evaluated based on their experience, and how can we change this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two different questions there. So one is whether they are, you know, does that actually happen? And the other is sort of how do we evaluate it? What I tend to see is that I think women are less confident in kind of applying up than men. So women would typically look at a job description or person specification and say, oh, there are 10 things on there, I can't tick all 10, so maybe I better not apply. Whereas I think what I see in more men is more a kind of, okay, I've got 7 out of 10, yeah, I should be fine, I will apply. So I think there is a bit there. So I'm not sure if it's entirely the fault of the evaluation. I think it can be the individual applying as well. I think then, you know, there is a question, you know, we do see some biases in interview processes, it can happen, but I think it's probably more driven by applicants themselves, not applying up, actually.
Jai, do you want to add something or?
No, I think Rebecca hit that one well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then, question from Lenka Matthews. Rebecca, could you please advise regarding prioritizing? Do you use any tool? Thank you, Lenka.
Okay, so Lenka's asked me a few things about this. So I read a book, right, a few years ago. I'm not, you know, I think book recommendations are weird, but I will give you this one. So I read this book by an American guy called David Allen, who's written a book called Getting Things Done. I'm not suggesting you follow the model precisely, but it works for me. David Allen, Getting Things Done, that's a top tip. That's how I prioritize.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Barbara Strakova. How do you manage decisions made from top, which you cannot influence, change, but should execute? How do you sell those to others and align with yourself? Thanks, Barbara.
Well, I'm going to just start with this one. So I had the benefit of working in the Netherlands, where there's this great saying that the discussion only begins after the executives have made the decision. So basically, the recalcitrantness of the Dutch employee labor force, it's very different than the Czech. It's much less hierarchical. And what they do is, there might be a decision made by the executive team, and they might have said, okay, next week we're going to implement blah, blah, blah across the network. And then they've decided this, it's voted, the notes are taken, and then the decision comes down to the manager that actually needs to implement it. And then usually he says, okay, this is what they've decided. And then the whole company will start weighing in on whether or not to do it. So just because the manager decides doesn't mean it's actually executed. And what usually winds up happening is all of the rationale around that decision wind up going back to that executive team. It's not the most effective way of working, but I can say that, you know, sometimes there has to be at least a sound if there's a reason you are in your role. Steve Jobs said, you know, I hire smart people not to tell them what to do, but for them to tell me what to do. So I think there is a certain amount of responsibility. If you really believe that it should be done differently, speak up.
Okay. Rebecca, do you want to add or?
No, I think that's good. I think that's good. Good.
Okay. Next question. Question for both of you, Jaya and Rebecca. Nice one. What would from Nela Forejtová, what would you say is your superpower, and when and how did you discover it? I don't know who you want to start.
Okay, so I'll start. So I think my superpower is probably conflict resolution, actually, or mediation. You know, trying to stop something blowing up into a big problem, and yeah, I discovered it in HR because you're often solving problems. But I think that's probably my one. I can normally find a way to smooth things out.
I don't know that I have one thing that I would say would be a superpower. I just think it helps me being curious and not being afraid to be curious and feel that I don't know something that I really want to learn. I love asking everyone questions. I think I must be the most irritating dinner person. Like if you ever have to sit next to me at a dinner and I ask you what you do, I'll ask you 20 million questions about what you do. And I can be really irritating that way, I think, because I genuinely am interested in people So I'm thinking that, I don't know, Rebecca, I feel like I'm not good at this one. I have no recognizable superpower that I can identify.
Well, no, but I mean, you're obviously so average, Jaya, aren't you? You have no strengths at all. Well, I can tell you exactly what Jaya's strength is she's like the most passionate person that I know, and her energy in our business is completely infectious. So even if you're kind of like, we had a long exec meeting last week, the afternoon was a bit, you're after lunch, you're feeling a bit tired. And then Jaya's like, she's like putting Coca-Cola into the room, it's all fizzy and everybody gets energetic again.
That's because I tried to get them all to dance. None of them wanted to dance. I don't get it. We had just a really long meeting. Let's all get up and shake our booty. But anyway, yes. Sorry.
I think we should probably stop at this point, because otherwise it's going to ruin
the high, and then yeah.
Okay, thanks for this. Perhaps last question, Jaya and Rebecca. Who were your if you had any mentors? So if you had any mentors throughout your working life, or maybe even through your life, if you could share your experience with mentors.
I'll go first. So I've had several different mentors for different reasons, different stages of my career, but I've had a very, very consistent mentor in my life, a woman. Actually, I don't think that really matters, but it is a woman who's been my mentor since my late 20s, actually. A great relationship, and she's probably someone who will give me very straight feedback, and I completely trust her, because I know that whether it's life or work, she's got my best interests at heart. So yeah, but it's been a long relationship, more than 20 years. Yeah.
So I've had a similar experience, that I have a lot of different mentors. I don't have one that has been with me for that long, just because my career has been a bit all over the place. But the best mentor I've ever had, and it's coincidentally a woman, she was the former head of the National Cybersecurity Institute in the Netherlands. And what I really liked about her was not that she gave me, because she was not technical at all, but she was a supreme leader. She was just so good at understanding people and understanding how to motivate them and understanding what they weren't doing well, which was very often an obstacle in their own way. I mean, they were just getting in their own way very often. And what I really liked about her was this same thing about straight feedback, just giving it to you directly. And there's a wonderful saying in Dutch that gentle doctors, that they make stinky wounds. So if you're too nice, that you make it just much, much, much worse. And believe me, she was direct, and she had no room for bullshit. So she would exactly tell you if you were saying something that was just nice to hear and blah, blah, blah. She would just say, stop that, cut it out. What you really want to say is this, so just say it. And I have to be honest that towards my career, that advice, that single piece of advice of stop trying to be so nice, it's getting in your way, was so useful. And I had no idea about how often I did that. So it's kind of like having this mindful speaking as a woman. And I feel like socially we're so engineered to always be kind and polite, and don't be evil, because then you'll be classified under bitch. So to not get that classification, be the polite, gentle female. But it doesn't always work. Especially in business situations, you need to be direct, to the point, and professional at all times. So, yeah.
Okay, many thanks. There are more and more questions coming, but I'm afraid we will have to close this Q&A session. So once again, big thanks, because it was really inspirational, and me personally here behind the screen, I could feel the energy, not only yours, Jaya, but also from Rebecca. And I must say, I was a few times like really laughing loudly. So even people in the office had to say like, look, what's going on here. So, but it wasn't only fun. What's more important, it was really inspirational and really motivation. So Jaya, I really believe that when you will come back to Prague, when you will come to Prague, that we will have the opportunity to meet and like in person, not only like this. And Rebecca, also wish you many thanks, and I hope we will see each other very soon. So fingers crossed, and once again, thanks a lot, and we will move to the other presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Pavel, could you please start sharing the screen? So next slide. Yeah, this is it. So now I would like to ask Christine, who will introduce and will interview the two brave mentoring pairs who will share with us their experience and their story. So Christine, first to you.
Thanks, Marcella. So before I start, I've taken like pages and pages of notes. I'm sitting here going, talking to myself for the hour that you guys were speaking. So my kids probably think I've lost it because we're all at home. Before we get into really the heart of the program, which is sharing real experiences, which we're going to do for the next, let's say, half an hour, I just took some notes on what Rebecca and Jaya shared, which was, I mean, I was laughing the whole time because those of you who have already been at my mentor training program, you've heard all of those things. And those of you who are going to be there in the next days and weeks, this is exactly so many examples of what you used. And I just have too many notes to have it well organized without having some time in between. But a lot of the things that you talked about were having trust, whether you were talking about, you know, a partner, someone you worked with, a mentor that you had in your life. You talked about sharing, you talked about honesty, you talked about, and you actually shared your failures. And that's something that we talked about we will talk about in the mentoring workshops, which is being vulnerable. You know, it's much easier to work with somebody when we're not trying to show, you know, how great we are, but to show how vulnerable and where we might need some help. You talked about self-confidence. It's something that comes up almost in every one of my mentoring and coaching sessions, self-confidence. This is a big topic and definitely something we want to talk about during our mentoring sessions. We talked about vulnerability. We talked about reworking goals. It's another thing we talk about. You know, don't get worried if during the year you set up a goal and it changes 3 times. The world is changing many times and out of our control. We talked about tough feedback. Jaya just talked about that. If you want to be good in your mentoring pairs, I'm looking at Irena. I have to slow down. She gave me feedback that I speak too fast. So thank you, Irena. I'm going to slow down. We talked about being inclusive. We talked about passion. You guys talked about purpose. We talked about energy. So basically, and another thing that you said right at the beginning, it feels good to help others. I mean, I think this is why we're all here. We're here because we get something out of it. And one more thing I have to say, this is super important as well. You talked about not judging, not making assumptions. All of these topics that you touched on are the essentials of mentoring. So even though Rebecca and Jaya did not share their presentation with me, we were not aligned on this. Absolutely every word they shared is completely aligned with our program. So you guys were the perfect speakers to invite because we were so connected, even though it was just by luck. So thank you so much for sharing that. So now we get into the real life stories of Equilibrium. I'm gonna watch my time. So we have a half an hour left. So we're gonna go about 10 minutes each pair. I am going to ask them about their experience over the past year, which I'm assuming may be difficult, that we've had the COVID in between. So I'm going to ask for honesty and openness. And before I start, I would just like to thank everyone who was part of the program this past year, the program that we are ending today, because it was a tough year for all of us. COVID gave us a lot of challenges, and it gave us a lot of challenges even in our mentoring. So thank you for all being flexible and sticking with us. So let's start with our first pair. Yana Sharfova, you put your hand up. So, okay, hi Yana, welcome.
Hello everybody.
Hi Yana. I'm going to introduce you and then I'm going to give you guys the floor. So Jana is a data governance expert at CSOB. She's a mentor in the program, and she's created a lot of interesting learning platforms, both at Komerční banka and CSOB. And she's very interested in employees learning, setting up a platform to share their learning among each other. So when I read a little bit about your background, Jana, it seems that mentoring is really something that is deep into your heart. So we're very lucky to have you here as a mentor. And thank you. And I'm going to introduce Jana, Andrea, and then I'm going to ask you guys some questions. So Andrea Odložilova, where do I see you? Hi, welcome. So Andrea is a relationship manager for large corporate clients at HSBC, and she is also a very passionate sports person, and she also loves animals, so another connection here. She works in animal shelters, and she's very interested in the environment. Maybe I just mentioned the reason we spend some time to talk about these personal things that you do and what your passions are and what your talents are is because that's what connect us. And both Rebecca and Jaya did that at the beginning of their presentation as well. So Jana, maybe I'm going to start with you. And if I were to ask you, as a mentor, what did you get out of this last year's program? We tend to think sometimes we think that it's all for the mentees, but we know, all of us who have been mentors, it's not just for the mentees. So can you share with me one of your positive outtakes or what you gained during your work with Andrea?
Sure, thank you, Christine. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jaya and Rebecca. It was really great speech. Thank you for that. As a mentor for me, it was a really very nice year because I met Andrea and we spent a lot of time together. We decided to meet quite frequently, sometimes more than once a month. Mm-hmm. And we divided our meetings into three different parts: professional growth, personal growth, and of course, lots of fun. And if I could say what I bring from this year, it was the fact that I can really enjoy the meeting sessions mm-hmm. in spite of the COVID and other obstacles. So it was really fine, nice, and open from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jana. You also shared something with me, just before in preparation, that there was something that you really needed to get to know, that you needed to find out about Andrea before you felt that you could work with her on the level that you needed. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, we both had to overcome some challenges. Andrea will describe hers. But for me, the most difficult part was to find out the level of Andrea's courage. Mm-hmm. I think it's good to know that because it determined the level of tasks which I could give her during the mentoring. It could be, for example, to meet some more important people on bilateral meetings and to use such meetings for setting up the future cooperation. But since Andrea is a great athlete, she has enough courage, which helps her to tackle challenges. So not only in sports, but also in her whole life.
Okay, thank you, Jana. I'm going to come back to this point in a minute, but I'd like to bring Andrea in. And Andrea, what were the biggest challenges you were coming into during this mentoring program? What was your reason for wanting to be a mentee?
First of all, thank you for such a nice introduction. Mm-hmm. Regarding challenges, probably the most difficult part was the beginning, where you have to set up your goals. I think that almost everybody wants to have a better role, higher salary, a lot of free time for reading, doing sports, whatever. Happy family. And now you thanks to the Equilibrium program, you suddenly get a mentor who has found time only for you and for your thoughts, and that's so energizing. But for me also it was, you know, a little bit constraining, because Jana is really an amazing mentor, and I just I just didn't want to waste her time and mine as well. So that's probably the biggest challenge, to set your goal and to find time to think about it.
So it's interesting when I hear you, it almost sounds like, am I worthy of Jana's time, right? Like, oh, I don't want to waste her time. And this is something that Rebecca and Yaya were talking about, you know, the self-confidence that, yes, I deserve this, and Jana wants to work with me. What helped you to find that self-confidence that you were worthy of Jana's time?
To be honest, I do not know. We just somehow built, you know, strong relationship, and I think that we find we were on the or we are on the same wave, and it's somehow, you know, naturally disappear. So I don't know how to name it.
No, I think you said it well. I think it's often, you know, we talk about, you know, in order to have a good mentoring relationship, you have to first build a relationship.
Yeah.
So how long do you feel, Andrea, it took you to starting feeling like, oh yeah, this is good, this is working, and I don't feel like I'm taking Jana's time or wasting my time, but this is worthy of both of our time?
Probably 3 or 4 sessions.
Okay.
Where we discussed, and it was really great. You know, she always has had time for me, face-to-face meetings or phone calls, or, you know, if I need some advice or anything, she was here to help me, and she has time for me. I think important thing is to be really open, and I don't know how to describe, but she was very open with me, and it helps a lot.
Thank you. It is one of the main pillars, really, of having a good mentor relationship, to be open and to build that relationship. Jana,
And
can
also,
I come back? Sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to add that also confidentiality is important at the beginning of building this such a relationship.
Great, absolutely. It's one of the things we talk about. Without confidentiality, the relationship really can't work, and it can't flourish. Jana, what did you do? If maybe you weren't aware if you were doing it, but as a mentor, what did you do to make Andrea feel comfortable and to build the trust and to show her confidentiality and honesty?
I'm used to be in contact with a lot of people, and I learned that to open as much as you can is the best way. I didn't play some role as a mentor, but I tried to be a friend, and I hope I am the friend of Andrea, and I tried to understand what she really needs to help with, what's inside her head, what's going on when is she talking about something. So just to be myself, this is my way.
Right, Jana, thank you. And maybe I have a more personal question. You know, Jaya was talking about people really, you know, I feel like as a mentor, sometimes our job is to find that hidden talent, or that talent which is somehow sleeping and isn't being used in our mentees. Is there a talent, Andrea, you weren't ready for this question, but Jana, is there a talent or something that you found within Andrea that you thought like, wow, she is really amazing at this?
Andrea is a great lady. I think she will have a great future because she's open. This is something which it helps her to go and move forward, to be open, and she's not worried to say really the truth, what's going on and what she wants to do or where is the problem. Somebody sometimes tries to hide the reality, the real point, which is for him difficult to say. But I think this is the talent of Andrea, she can say. And of course, with whole confidence, it's private. Of course, I can't describe it to you, but this is one of the talents which I like on her.
Great, Jana, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Andrea, last question, and then I'm going to move on to the other pair, but how does it feel to you when Jana says what she thinks you're really talented at?
It's so nice, you know. I'm so pleased to be part of such a great program, and also that I have Jana, because we agreed we will meet again even after the Equilibrium for me is over. But as Jana said, I also believe that I have found a friend in her, and she will be here for me also, I don't know, forever, I hope.
Sure.
So it's really nice to hear.
Andrea, thank you for sharing that. You know, from our experience, because this is a question a lot of people ask me, what happens when the program is over? It's completely up to you. Some people stay in close contact, some people aren't in contact, and some people are just in contact from time to time. But I think it's that opportunity to meet a friend or somebody who has made some impact in your life that in other situation you probably never would have met. So the final question is for you, Andrea. If you could explain the program in one word, what word would you use?
Amazing.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing. Thank you for your willingness to be able to share. I know it can be scary to speak to so many people, and even harder when we can't see them, but we really appreciate you sharing your story. And because we are really a network, any future mentees, mentors who would like to ask Jana or Andrea questions, you can put them into the chat box. And if we don't have time to get to them, we can connect you via email, okay? Thank you both. I'm glad you had an amazing experience. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So now we go to our next pair, Karol Witowski and Martina Klementova. Can you put your hands up? Okay, good, I can see you, Martina. So Martina and I met in person, but she's the HR manager and internal coach at EY. She also lived in Australia for some time. She loves to hike and she loves skiing in the Alps. And I think she had a wonderful program this year because her coach or her mentor was Karol Witowski, who is a dear friend of mine. He's been 30 years in the banking industry. He recently decided to retire early, but he did not give up his job as a mentor in Equilibrium, and we're not going to let him ever retire from that role. He's a passionate person from Žižkov, and I won't say Prague because he doesn't consider Žižkov Prague. And I know quite a lot about Karol because we met in the program, but he had an event called My Story a couple years ago where he talked about his life story. And I know that the biggest mentor in his life, for example, is his grandmother. And I remember the stories he told about his grandmother, and he's one of the main reasons that I decided to join Equilibrium many years ago, because I met him at my first meeting. And when I met Karol, I thought I have to be there with him. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So Martina, maybe I'll start with you. If you were, a lot of people want to ask about goals. You know, when you jump into the program, do you have a goal? Are you coming for something specific? When you came into this program, did you just come in thinking that you wanted someone to discuss day-to-day business with, or did you come with very specific goals?
I came with a very specific goal, which has then changed during our cooperation with the mentor. But my original goal was to get an insight by someone outside of EY, where I work, on the internal coaching program, which I had launched like 3 or 4 weeks before I entered the program. So it was very fresh, and I wanted to get someone's view on, you know, how to make it a good program, how to promote it with our employees, etc. But during my mentoring cooperation with Carol, we actually, although we never stopped working about internal coaching, we actually moved or evolved into coaching, into talking a lot about life in general. And we tackled very interesting subjects. Even, you know, at one point we talked about how to find a life purpose. So really we talked about many issues which have become very relevant and personal and important at that particular point in time. So I was glad that Carol was sufficiently open-minded to allow me to move away from that narrow goal or subject that I had at the start to something a lot bigger and broader.
Okay, so Carl's openness was the thing that allowed you to just not come with one specific goal and stay there, but to let it develop and morph into other things in time.
It was not his authenticity. He was just totally authentic, genuine, open-minded, you know, very willing just to listen to me and to face all the difficult questions that I have come up with.
Super, thank you. Carol, that feedback doesn't surprise me because I know you quite well. Can you hear me, Carol?
I think he's muted.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm here with my voice too.
Good. So you now have been a mentor both at Česká spořitelna and in the Equilibrium program, and maybe even in some other programs. What are the key things that are important for you as a mentor to create this openness and this trusting atmosphere with your mentees? What do you do as a mentor?
First of all, Christine, thanks that you mentioned my retirement, because I'm more than 60 months at home and my English is getting worse and worse, so excuse to everybody. But back to your question, maybe it's very easy. And Martina also mentioned it, and Martina, thanks you for your nice words. I'm trying to be authentic. I'm not playing or trying to play any role which I don't fit in. And sometimes it's difficult for the dialogue with mentee, but I have no problem to say, I don't know. I'll help you in this area. Sorry. So that's it.
You shared with me yesterday, Carol and I had a nice call about the interview. We didn't talk much about the interview, we just caught up, but you did mention something interesting to me yesterday, that you had an idea in the past year to introduce Martina to somebody that you think could be more helpful potentially for her. Could you share that experience?
Of course, and I'm happy with this to share it, because it was really my first experiment this type in Equilibrium. First of all, I must say that when I read Martina's CV or application, I was not afraid, but very surprised, and I was thinking that Eva is testing my abilities. But when Eva make a choice to put together two people together, so she's right. So, and during the first meeting, I found that really I have a lot of respect, because Martina is very good in coaching. And that's why after both agreement, we little bit made the, as Martina mentioned, the sessions more wider. Yeah. And one of the best ones was about this, what is the purpose of your life, which we have a session in Rigo Vysady, in open air session, and a nice view on Prague, and we found it. So, but what was your question?
The question was, you had shared something, an experiment you had done.
And as I found during our sessions that Martina is very experienced, and this year I have 2 mentees, and I decided to make one session together with both of my mentees. And the reason was that one mentee was solving her ideas about future in employment, what she will do. And I found that Martina is able to give her a feedback from the life, how it's running, because I have no idea how it's going in such big advising companies. So it was just an idea, and I am more than sure that Martina will agree that it was nice 1.5 hours. And what is perfect is that it helped. It helped to put together these two people, and it was really great. I love it.
Thank you, Karel. The reason I asked you that question is because a few people last week during the mentoring workshops asked me, like, well, what if I don't know the answer? And you mentioned that you just say, I don't know the answer to that, but also to remember that your mentor is not there to solve your problems and answer the questions that you don't know. They're there to facilitate discussion. And if you feel that bringing someone else, Karel happened to have 2 mentees, which he thought could share with each other and it would be relevant. So he facilitated something that he had never done before, and he found it to be a very interesting way of sharing experiences more widely within the network. So Martina, you are—
Sorry, Christine, just to add that it was strictly after the pre-discussion with both mentees. Yes. I asked them if they agree, because, you know, I opened the identity in one meeting.
Sure.
So, but both mentees were so fine that they agreed with it, and in fact they enjoy it. So this is maybe a practical notice if somebody will
always getting approval, or always making sure that confidentiality is not broken.
Because in the first phase I was slightly uncertain if I can do this.
Okay. Maybe Martina, if I could ask you, you are a coach, you do this type of work at EY, I guess, every day in your business. What did you learn about the mentoring process that maybe you didn't know before?
Well, what I learned was that, you know, when I was a kid, I was extremely curious and hungry to learn. And I thought I had lost it, because at some point in time, I kind of thought, you know, I knew enough. And of course, that was a very silly thing, you know, to actually, you know, think. And I have rediscovered that I am still curious. I still love to learn. I love to absorb new information. I got so inspired by Karel. You know, he did a very thorough research before every session we had, so that he could share not only his own experiences, but also inspiration from other people. So I just, you know, absorbed everything that came my way, and it was lovely. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Martina. One last question for you. We have a lot of new mentees on the call today. What advice would you give to them for a successful mentoring relationship?
It's on me?
No, to Martina.
Just be open-minded, you know, make the most out of it, be open-minded. Do not be afraid to change the focus so that it is as relevant and important as it can be at a certain point in time. Do not be afraid to ask questions, and just do not be afraid to learn about yourself, because this is an opportunity to learn about yourself. You know, what is important to you, who you are, what you want, you know, what are the first steps you need to take to get where you want to be. So just be open-minded. I think that is the word I would use.
Super, Martina. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Karel, because you've been with us for years and you've given a lot of time, and not just time, you know, on the clock, but really a lot of energy. You've given your heart. We know you love the program, and we love that you're there with us. Why do you come back every year?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. It's silly to say this phrase, it's a good question, because somebody needs time, and he always says it's a good question, but it's a really good question. Maybe I know why. Just to say it very briefly, I think that and you know it about me, Christine, that I'm a little bit greedy. So I'm trying to take from this type of, let's say, work, because sometimes it's a work, from this type as much as I can. And I'm always saying that the mentoring is, or my role in mentoring is in fact 50 to 50, because I'm 50% as a mentor and I'm 50% as a mentee. And really, yes, you mentioned that I'm a couple of years here. Maybe I try to find it 7. Yeah. And one of my first sessions, the mentee was a small lawyer company. And me as a mentor, I was from this big corporation like Česká spořitelna. And really during the sessions, and it was one of the best sessions I have ever had there, I learned a lot, because in fact we have the same topics, because it was a lawyer company providing support in financial area. So we were in fact have the same expertise, but what is behind was so totally different. You can imagine lawyer company about 13 people, and Česká spořitelna with 10,500 people. So really, this is maybe the main reason that I'm still interested in learning, in finding new things, and to have a mirror from the mentee and to think about it. Maybe this is the main reason. And of course, I like this work.
Okay, Karol, thank you. We didn't rehearse that, but he says one of the main points, which is, you know, it's a two-way street. You know, you're not just taking if you're a mentor, you're also a mentee, you're also giving to the mentor. And I think all of this, because we all get something out of it. I'm just looking at the time, and I want to make sure we end on time because it has been a long session. I would like to thank all 4 of you, mentors and mentees, for sharing your experiences, and to all the other mentors and mentees who are on this call and I can't see you. I hope we'll have the opportunity to share your experiences as well, because that's what gives us the energy to keep going. So thanks for your openness and your care and your love. Yeah, okay. You know, if I was there, I'd be hugging you all. So good thing there's a computer, otherwise you'd get corona. Okay, Marcela, I'm going to hand it over to you. Yeah?
Okay, yeah, many thanks. And yes, big thanks to all 4 of you. You were just amazing, and I'm really grateful how honest and open you were. And Christine, thanks for your moderation. It was great. So before I will close the meeting, yes, I want to repeat big thanks to all speakers and to the 2 pairs sharing your stories. You significantly contributed to the event and really make it so special and great. Now I would like to ask for next slide. Yeah, and another big thank. I really want to say big thank you to the steering committee and to the executive team for the amazing work, because without their energy, expertise, and enthusiasm, you know, the Equilibrium, but also the event which we had or which we are still having today would not be as unique and exceptional. So once again, big thanks, and I put them all on one slide so you can see all the names and the faces. And I really hope that very soon we will all meet in person. And now another slide, because I want to say just few more words before we definitely close for today. So few more words to the next edition participants. I would say that there is almost a year full of very intensive and hard work ahead of you. But I would also say that there is ahead of you also a year which is full of great meetings, and we hope that the meetings will be in person. a year which will be full of amazing people and also full of inspiration and great fun. So I really want to say, enjoy it and use the opportunity because it is amazing and life experience. And then for those who have been with us during the past year, it's been an extraordinary year, yes. And I still hope that you enjoyed it and you have taken many, many benefits out of it. But please don't take this as the end of the journey, the opposite. I would really like if you could take this as just a first phase of your journey, or maybe like a springboard, and that you will continue what you have started. So basically, stay in touch, and remember, once you have been touched by the equilibrium, it will get into your DNA, and you are a member of the equilibrium community forever. So even if you are not active participant of the program, stay in touch, and we still will help you if we can. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, once again, it would be nice if I could now say, and now I would like to invite you for networking and having a glass of wine or two. I can't hug you, I can't meet you in person, but we all certainly can take a glass or maybe 2 or 3 in the evening and enjoy it, and maybe say cheers to the equilibrium program later on when we are with our friends and families. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, and please keep safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Marcela, one more thing.
Yeah.
Orchestra, especially so big as Equilibrium, needs a great conductor. You know, there are a lot of egos and lots of interesting and busy people participating, but you are our conductor and our leader. And I would like to, on behalf of everybody who participates the last 10 years in Equilibrium, thank you for bringing it and leading it to the next decade. Thank you so much.
I turned off my microphone.
Okay, thank you all, and we are one team. So thanks a lot, and bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.